Now playing the Hook and Bridge podcast.
I fucking love Kesha. I'm telling you, I'm the worst person to have a podcast. I can barely speak.
Oh my god, I love this!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hook and Bridge podcast, episode number 54. So, Taylor,
Yes.
first time returning guests. Well, new guests, first time returning band.
Yes.
Yes. So we
Woo-hoo-hoo.
have Will Burton from Ash's Reign. Will, welcome to the show. You are the drummer of the band, correct?
That's right.
Okay, all right. We had Vinny carrying on the last time. We talked in depth about the album, so I won't go into too much of the current album. However, you guys did do this incredible cover that I have questions about. So let's talk Paint It Thrash, man. This song is blowing up. It's a fantastic cover of Paint It Black. With a lot of added elements. You guys did a lot to the song. So tell us a little bit about that and how the success of that track is going along.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you guys for having me on. It was kind of so obviously last time out you guys talked about the EP, which of course I actually wasn't on. It was recorded about half a year before I joined the band. So this was my first actual recording and my first release with the band. Me and Carter, we're the new blood in the band. Right around the time that we actually did our first interview after the EP and you guys talked with Vinny, we had actually already decided that we wanted to do a single to kind of bridge the gap between the EP and like a future release. And Vinny was pretty adamant from the start that he wanted it to be a cover, but he just wasn't sure what song he would pick. He did have the philosophy of doing something that really hadn't been done as a metal cover for the most part. I mean, it would be kind of boring to come out and just cover, Metallica or Iron Maiden because it's been done 10,000 plus times.
Right.
So yeah, he eventually settled on Paint It Black because I guess I mean, it's a very famous song, but it's pretty classic rock, like late 60s style. And he pretty much I mean, it's a cover, but I mean, he pretty much just kind of twisted it and basically kind of rewrote it. I mean, really the opening melody and the verse are really the only elements from the original classic song that actually could be heard in this cover. There's some blast beats in there. Obviously, there's a really long extended solo section with Vinny and Carter going back and forth that obviously was not there on the original. So yeah, that was the idea. And we did the drums back in October. And after that, they just laid everything else down and we got it mixed and we decided to just put it out. And with that, it's the first release of the new incarnation of Ash's Reign, and it is my first release as a drummer ever.
Oh, wow.
Lifelong dream of mine. So yeah, first time in the studio, lifelong dream, and finally got it done. And overall, I am pretty happy with it, man. It's definitely a pretty good representation of, I guess, being able to play really, really fast, but also having some different intricacies and having some, kind of dynamics in there. Like the blast beat, for example. I really don't play blast beats that much. I'm not really that much of an extreme metal drummer. I'm more into like the progressive power metal style. But it just fit. It actually wasn't really planned in the original demos, but just during that section, it just kind of sounded appropriate. So I just threw it in there, and thankfully Vinny is pretty lenient and pretty accommodating when it comes to me coming up with drum parts. So I just ran with it, and I don't know if it's blowing up. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, honestly, I don't really know about Spotify numbers or anything like that because I actually listen to most of my music through YouTube. I've actually never had Spotify ever downloaded on my phone. So I'm kind of just like, I don't really know about these numbers or whatever. But relative to how the EP did, it actually is doing better. Like it actually has basically pretty close to the same number of listens that some of those songs on the EP had, and it's been out for less than 5% of the same time. So
Right.
things are going pretty well, and it has been pretty well received. People like it, and that's good. I'm
Well,
very thankful that people are liking it.
first off, congrats on getting in the studio, man. That's really awesome for you. That that it's got to feel incredible. And tell me a little bit of like how joining the band came about. How did you progress and meet up with Vinny, and how did that come about?
Yeah, okay. I've been playing drums since I was 11 years old. But for the most part, through most of my journey through playing drums, I didn't really seek out playing with people for the most part. I kind of did when I was in 7th grade, like when I was really into the thrash thing. But I kind of, I'm in school, I really can't do a whole lot with that. So I just kind of focused on getting better and just learning a lot of new songs, just playing by myself and just saving up money to buy new equipment. But by the time 2021 rolled around, I really kind of had this burning desire to really start playing with people. I felt like at that point, like, okay, I'm pretty relatively experienced. I've played for quite a while. I kind of know my way around the kit, what have you. So I started looking for people to play. And interestingly enough, I actually kind of knew about the band before, like a long time before I joined, like back when I was like 14 years old. But they had a drummer back then, and I was like, okay, they don't need a drummer. And I hit up Vinny kind of with the intention of seeing if he knew other people I could play with, or maybe if he wanted to do like something on the side. And I was just kind of throwing names at him. Like like my favorite bands are like, Dragon Force, Dream Theater, Stradivarius, Seventh Wonder, stuff like that. And that's what I really, really want to play, that kind of style. And he got back to me a few weeks later, and it turns out that the Riley, the guy who did the EP, he had just left the band. So really crazy timing how that came about. And I was like, oh, okay. And they kind of we started talking about like, the struggles of the band and like a bunch of different members and the drama or whatever, the pandemic, which of course was just a complete nightmare for musicians. And they just eventually just kind of invited me to basically just come over and they threw one song at me. It was Mountains Echo, to play and see like if it, it felt like it clicked. So I just learned that song over one evening. I listened to it a bunch of times. The morning of, I hopped on the kit, I mimed it, and then I just played through it one time. And then I went over there and I played it through with Ryan and Vinny instrumentally. And things just kind of clicked, it felt really good, and they're really cool guys. So thankfully everything just worked out. And then a few months later, Carter got in the band, and that's when things kind of started getting rolling with us playing shows and doing this single. And yeah, that's pretty much how it came about.
Hell yeah, man. So Taylor, my little sister Taylor there in the corner, I know she's got a couple questions for you.
I do.
And then I have one more here for you.
Okay.
All right. So going off of your drumming, where do you find most of your inspiration? Is it from your favorite bands, and then do you just draw from that? Or is it just completely on your own, what you're feeling in that moment?
It's a little bit of both. For the most part, like my favorite bands have my favorite drummers, but there are some individual drummers that I really like that are in music that I don't really like at all. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I mean, the greatest drummer of all time, in my opinion, realistically, is probably Buddy Rich. I mean, it just has to be. I mean, the man was just a complete phenom on the drums. Didn't even know how to read music, which completely shocked me when I figured that out. I mean, I don't know how to read music either, but I play metal, so I can get away with it. But when I figured that out, it really just, I was like, wow. So yeah, him. But I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, Portnoy, Jason Rulo from Symphony X, I really, really like. Nick Menza from Megadeth, rest in peace. He was one of my early inspirations. Nico McBrain. And then eventually I started getting into more of like the kind of lesser known drummers, like Hellhammer from Mayhem is extremely good. And he's played with a bunch of different, he's played in black metal, and he's played in like prog avant-garde metal. Really, really, really good technique. furiously fast blast beats and double bass. Um, and I mean, yeah, Dave McIntosh from Dragon Force was a real inspiration. You know, his extremely fast. You know how Dragon Force is, just blazing fast. But just the way he just hits the snare, like, you know, when he's doing those really fast rolls, like during Heroes of Our Time or Inside the Winter Storm, just the way he cracks the snare, but adds dynamics to it, like softer hits. I really love Dave McIntosh. He is really underrated because in Dragon Force, it's all about the guitars, you know what I'm saying? But he, you know, McIntosh is just absolutely amazing. I really miss him in the metal scene. He hasn't really done a whole lot since he left the band about 10 years ago. But yeah, I would say they would probably be my top guys as far as like drumming inspiration goes.
And then going off of that, what's your favorite drumming memory that you have?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I mean, just at the start when I was when I was 11, and just like not really knowing what I was doing at all, like playing on this really cheap drum kit that I think my parents got from Toys R Us back when that was still around, and you know, just listening to Megadeth for the first time and Iron Maiden and Slayer and trying to play that stuff. Just really good memories, you know, being in middle school and just, you know, getting into that stuff. Getting my first double bass pedal, which obviously is pretty necessary in metal, was really cool. I remember being really excited about that. I guess more recently, honestly, I mean, the first show I played with Ashes Rain, and actually the first show I ever played, period, that was really fun. I mean, it was at this place called Banditos in Richmond, which is kind of just like a Mexican burrito lounge in Richmond. It was a really fun show, man. I mean, there were only like 10 or 15 people there, but it was just so much fun actually playing in front of other people for the first time. You know, talking with the other bands, loading our stuff in. The sound person never showed up. So Vinny had to basically do like everything himself. I mean, he's up there looking like King Kong, like swinging from all the wires and stuff. I mean, it was crazy, man. It was hilarious. But that was honestly, it was really chaotic, but it was just so fun, and it was like in a lighthearted way because it was just so cool finally be able to play in front of other people for the first time. I mean, for being 20, I mean, for a first show, I would say being 20 is pretty old. I mean, most musicians, I would probably guess by the time they're like 16, 17, they're playing shows, even if it's just like in the high school setting. I mean, but I was only 20 when I played my first show. But yeah, that was that's a pretty fun memory.
Do you think that? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, that's all right. I was just curious. So how old are you then? Are you?
I am 21 years old.
21. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm so old.
Yeah,
man.
how's that make you feel, buddy? How you feeling over there?
Old.
Yeah.
As
I
you
was like,
should.
he said his
How
first
old
show
are
is.
you?
I'm 28. We're
He's
almost 29.
Ancient.
Okay.
But you said your first show was with Vinny, and I'm like, well, if you joined the band a year ago, and then you're like, yeah, I
Hard
played my
math.
first show at 20, I'm like, holy shit, man, where have I been?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
that is
Continue.
It's okay. I was just gonna say, do you think 11-year-old you would be so excited
Oh,
that you're
yeah.
still doing this and like playing shows now and in the studio?
Like if you
Yeah,
could go back to 11-year-old you and be like, you're
Yeah.
not gonna believe this. Like eventually, it all works out. It's gonna pan out. You're gonna do this amazing project.
Yeah, I probably would have been yelling and bragging like a complete douche, honestly, considering how I was when I was younger. I can't imagine. It probably would have been pretty embarrassing, honestly, in a good way. I mean, I would have been
Yeah.
very hyped, like ridiculously, like yelling incoherently, like shaking, like hype. Honestly, I don't know.
All right. I do have one last question, and this has nothing to do with music. So I saw that you like to read. Yes, and I also am now into reading. So what's some of your favorites?
I'm really glad you asked that because outside of music, that's probably one of my biggest inspirations, and it's one of my favorite things to do. Right now, I actually just got a book about the Vikings, who I've kind of started looking into. just the different kings and the different warriors, great heathen army and stuff like that. My favorite kind of era, I guess I like to read about is definitely World War II, Nazi Germany, Joseph Stalin era history. Joseph Stalin is probably the most interesting historical figure in my opinion for all of the wrong reasons. I've read a few biographies about his life. Back when
Nice
he was
save there, man.
Nice
This could have been
I'm
a
like,
very different show.
yeah. I mean, certain people are watching. I have to watch what I say. And no, in all seriousness, it is a morbid curiosity. Reading books about when he was, reading books about when he was younger and about his abusive father and how he was supposed to be. If I remember, he was a choir boy and he was supposed to be a priest. And then when he kind of grew older and found Karl Marx, he became basically a gangster, taking part in like big robberies in his native Georgia to fund, the communist cause back then. And I've read a lot of different accounts and kind of, I guess, memoirs about people who suffered during that era in the forced labor camps. I've read Varlam Shalamov and Solzhenitsyn. One of my favorite novels, I guess, is Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman. And basically, Life and Fate is it's kind of been compared to War and Peace in a certain sense because it's a very broad novel that covers a lot of different characters, frontline soldiers, people suffering in the forced labor camps, people suffering in the concentration camps because Vasily Grossman, his mother, perished in one of the camps. And there's one of the chapters, one of the most heartrending chapters in the book is basically a letter from the character's mother, which was smuggled out of the ghetto, which is based on the actual letter that Vasily Grossman's mother sent to him before she passed away. So that kind of era in general is really, really interesting. World War II history. I've read a lot about Timur or Tamerlane, who was the ancient conqueror from modern day Uzbekistan, whose empire spanned from like Turkey, like Anatolia, all the way to China and India, and who was really, really brutal. His conquest killed perhaps 5% of the world population. And it's just kind of got me interested in traveling. Like, the ancient Timurid capital was Samarkand in Uzbekistan, which is a place I really, really want to visit because it's a very beautiful place, with the architecture and the history, it being a very big crossroads of the Silk Road. So I'm really interested in that kind of era as well. As far as fiction goes, it took me a little bit longer to get into fiction. I'm not going to lie. When I was younger, and even now, like on my recent road trip to Quebec, I spent a lot of time listening to Star Wars audiobooks because I actually am kind of a Star Wars fan. Listening to Darth Plagueis audiobook and Darth Bane trilogy, some of my favorite books. Another really big novel that I really like is a novel called Cancer Ward, which is by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, which is somewhat semi-autobiographical because the character is released from a labor camp and is basically in a cancer ward, and it is autobiographical because Solzhenitsyn, he fought in the army, was arrested, and then was released and actually spent time in a cancer ward in Central Asia. And it's just kind of a metaphor for basically, how certain individuals during that era, during the Soviet Union, were privileged because of their political viewpoints and just the bureaucracy of it. The way the different characters handle their cancer is a pretty interesting thing. I really, really enjoyed that novel. I'm trying to think of some other ones I've read. I recently read Bright Lights, Big City, which was turned into a movie. I mean, basically just a lot of different stuff. I mean, I'm always reading a lot of different books. True crime. I've gotten into true crime actually recently, reading about Oh, what was that?
I said that's
Yes,
my
that's
favorite.
great. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought you were asking a question. I'm
No,
sorry.
Oh,
Like
no.
I've been reading a lot of you guys probably know him. There's John Douglas, obviously. He's a really interesting character. He's written a lot of really good books. Mindhunter. One of my favorite books of his was the the cases that haunt us, which is about historical cases like Lizzie Borden and Jack the Ripper,
Yeah.
the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. That book was absolutely amazing. I really, really liked that one. And reading about serial killers in general, I read a book called The Killer Department, which is about Andrei Chikatilo, who was definitely the worst serial killer from the Soviet era. And again, just kind of, he was a correspondent in Russia, so he kind of had access to a lot of the people who were involved in that case. And again, just the way things worked, like that, serial killers, they didn't exist in the Soviet Union. That was the party line. So there was a lot of barriers they had to get over to actually catch Chikatilo, because he was an older man, he was a party member, and he just didn't fit the profile of what, the maniac, as that's what they're called in Russia. They're called maniacs. What he was supposed to be. So that was a really interesting read as well. The Killer Department. It was actually turned into a movie, and I did see the movie as well, and it was really good.
Now,
Citizen X.
I can relate. Are you into maybe like the Dr. Seuss era? Like One Fish, Two Fish, maybe some Green Eggs and Ham.
Oh my god!
I think that's the last time I read a book.
I got into that when I was like maybe 6 or 7, but that was because I was at school, and so I'm not entirely reading about genocides and serial killers. It's not always about that.
Yeah.
I haven't read a book.
I have some more lighthearted stuff.
I haven't read a book in probably, gosh, I don't know, 13 years.
Middle school.
Yeah, 13, 14 years. So
sounds about right.
It's a really good hobby, man. I mean, it really does. It heals, and it's a really interesting perspective, and it's just really, it's like drugs for me. I don't drink alcohol, thankfully, and I don't do drugs, so I waste all my money on books impulsively. So I just do that instead.
So
it did take a while for me to get into reading, though.
Yeah,
but once I did.
So you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you read books,
drums.
You do drums. Do you do like video games? Are you into movies, film, TV shows, anything like that? Collecting anything?
Old school video games, yeah. I mean, I have a Nintendo 64 and a Super Nintendo, which have some of my favorite games of all time: GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Shadows of the Empire. Like Super Mario World, old stuff like that, and even kind of like the Call of Duty, some of the older COD games like Black Ops was one of my favorite games of all time. Manhunt 2 was a really, really cult classic of mine for a lot of brutal reasons. A lot of memories, a lot of nostalgia playing that when I was like in 8th grade, and just during the fall when all the leaves were falling and all the crazy gory stuff that's going on in the game. As far as TVs and movies go, I mean, I watch them, but I kind of live under a rock when it comes to that kind of thing, because I mean, I've seen Hannibal, the TV show, which is one of my favorites, and I've seen Dexter. I've seen some kind of lesser known war movies, but I still haven't seen Forrest Gump or The Godfather. So I really I kind of live under a rock.
I also have not seen The Godfather.
I mean, to be fair, that one's really long. Forrest Gump,
really long. Yeah.
I get grilled over Forrest Gump, and it's like, yeah.
It's okay. You're not really missing much.
I mean, it might be a really cool movie. I just haven't really gotten around to seeing it.
That's fair.
What about Criminal Minds?
No, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
See, now you're disappointed too.
Me either. I don't even know what that is.
So let's talk a little bit more about the band. So what can we see from Ash's Reign this year? Are you guys in the studio now? You working on anything, or are you focusing mainly on like live shows right now?
Drum recordings for our first full-length album are booked and ready to go in June. We're really driving this thing forward, man. Vinny's been hard at work writing a lot of really killer tunes, sending me that stuff over and getting the drums ready and getting my parts ready. It's going to be really, really cool. I think it's going to be a lot better than the EP. It's pretty similar stuff, but it's a little bit more focused and a little bit more varied. There's going to be different peaks and valleys, and just I feel like just the music is a lot more inspired. there's these two songs called Sever and Distance, which are currently a part of our live set, but are unreleased basically. And those are probably two of the really, really strong ones that will hit really hard. Sever, I mean, if we could do one music video, it probably would be Sever because it's a quick 4-minute song. Um, good time signature changes, really, really good chorus, really cool solo section. Distance is really, really good for kind of the opposite reasons. It's one of the more progressive metal kind of inspired tracks. It's a little bit longer. There's a pretty interesting intro that's going to be pretty kind of out of left field, which will be really cool. And lyrically, that song is it hits pretty deep. I don't really want to get too into it, but some of the things that you guys talked with Vinny about last time, like personal problems, is being discussed in that song. And I've actually been writing a little bit of some lyrics too, and it's actually kind of going to go hand in hand with that, basically. Except my lyrics are a lot more dreadful and a lot more depressing and a lot more pessimistic.
Nice. Hey man, I'm a
But
sucker
that'll
for a
have
pessimist.
to wait. Yeah, that'll have to wait. But I am really, really excited for you guys to hear it, man. It's going to be really, really awesome. And it might be out by we're looking at the first quarter of next year, but it could be out at the end of this year, depending on certain things. But we'll have to see. But I'm 95% certain it will be out in less than a year. So
Right. Okay. So the other question I've got for you. So Painted Thrash, like I said, love it. It's killing it. Tell us a little bit about the success of getting the Sirius XM play during the Twitch stream.
That's a really good question. The unfortunate thing is, I don't know anything about that. I don't know.
Okay.
Was this the Twitch streamer that played it on his thing, I guess?
Yeah, so from what I saw on Vinny's Instagram was that the song was played during so they still have DJ jockeys at Sirius XM, and
Right.
I think the channel was Octane. It was either Octane or Ozzy's Boneyard or something, but one of those DJs played your cover during his Twitch stream, where I assume he was probably gaming, and played it in the background. So I mean, to me, that's huge, man. Like to get somebody from Sirius XM to acknowledge your band.
What's the guy's name?
I don't know.
Oh, see. Oh, okay. All right. I mean, I don't want to be seem like that's really cool. I don't want to seem like a dick, but I'm not really into the social media thing, honestly. Like,
No, me either.
I try to avoid it. It's pretty poisonous, so that's kind of why I didn't really like. I think I heard them talking something about it, but I thought that might have been something different. I don't know. But no, but that's cool. I'm really glad that he took the time to play it. That's good.
Yeah, it looks like it was Octane. It was Octane, and it was Jesse Jessiah
Jesse
Lee.
J.
Maybe, yeah. Jesse J. Nice Taylor.
No, I think his name is Jessiah. I think.
Josiah.
I don't really know. But
I'll type it in. I'll try to type it in a few times. I'll get it eventually.
So anyways, yeah, I don't do social media. I'm not great at it. That's for damn sure by any means.
Yeah, I feel you.
You're doing great.
Yeah, our 230 followers, we're doing good.
I'll get us more. That's about the same as my following. It's so good.
No, I'm much better at this. This is where I excel.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It just I mean, like it's not obviously in the flesh, but it's just more real and it's more enjoyable when it's not just written out and you can read each other better. It's just a lot better.
Exactly.
Speaking, I have my own question. I'm going to ask you.
Oh,
all right.
I did kind of go through Vinny's interview, and I heard that you actually tried out for Ash's Reign a few years back.
So it was a funny story. So I actually never went. But he had a posting. So we corresponded a little bit. But I think it was like the drive or something. I don't remember entirely. It was when I first moved down here to Virginia. and I was playing music in Ohio.
Oh,
And yeah, I wanted to join a band, and I love metal as well. That was one of those ones where they were kind of getting some decent notoriety, it seemed like, when I was looking them up. And then I think it was probably the drive,
It had to have been the
honestly.
drive.
Yeah, because I think we lived like at least an hour and a half out. And I was like, I can't. He wanted rehearsals. He was like, it's a 3-day-a-week rehearsal. And I was like, there's no way I'm driving that far 3 days a week. So yeah.
he's tempered his expectations, thankfully. Wait a minute, so where do you guys live?
So we live in Hampton.
Mhm.
My little sister lives in Ohio still.
I live in
We
Ohio.
live down here in Hampton.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, 757. All right. Oh, that's cool. We're in the same state. That's nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, we're
I
not
didn't know
far at all.
that.
Yeah, I think you're probably about
What
45
part,
to an hour.
Taylor? What part of?
So
Probably 2 hours.
So, yeah.
I live in a small farm town of Hiram, Ohio. But it's close to like the Cleveland, Akron area of Ohio.
Oh, okay. I've never actually been to Ohio yet.
No, you're not missing
lucky
I might
anything.
have to. I'll probably go one day. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for that.
Music Hall of Fame too. Or
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna
Rock
say
and
with
Roll
Rock
Hall
and
of
Roll
Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great place.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's
Yeah.
something good about it.
But other than that,
Find
we got a lot
something
of
positive.
cornfields, some cows,
That's about it.
bad weather. That's
Snow.
about it. Snow.
Yeah, man. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the cold.
Yeah.
Well-
If you come up between October and February, you will
I
be
would
very
say about
happy.
April.
April. Yeah, that is true. It is
Yeah.
still, yeah,
Still snowy
Yeah.
in April.
it is still snowing in April. Actually, we had snow in May, so it's
Well,
you
yeah.
pick a month.
So since you listened to Vinny's
Okay,
episode,
yeah.
that means you know what our final question is going to be. We ask all of our guests this final question. The show is called the Hook and Bridge Podcast for a reason. I consider myself the hook of the show, the entertainer, the kind of funny guy, the piece that keeps guys coming back, right? And then Taylor is the bridge of the show. She's an intricate, important part of the show, but typically a little more silent. And then my wife Lindsay is the and symbol that keeps everything together. She's our executive producer. So for your question, sir, what is more important to you in music? Whether listening to music, composing music, writing music, the hook versus the bridge, the age-old question.
That's pretty. Wow, I like the way that was worded. I'll go ahead and say the hook. I mean, realistically, if you want the song to be good, you gotta have a catchy verse. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-minute song. It doesn't matter if this 20 minutes, Dream Theater kind of thing. It got it's got to have a good verse. Have really catchiness. Seven Wonder, and they're really well known for being really cheesy, but I don't really look at it like that. They're really cheesy. Tommy's vocal lines are just extremely, they hook you, and it's very intricate stuff. It's a lot of time signature changes, but it's jumpable. It's it's the kind of music that you want to jump up and down to and sing, despite the fact that it's progressive metal, which a lot of people think is not that at all. So yeah, I'll go ahead and say, I mean, the bridge is important too, but yeah, I'll go ahead and say the hook.
I will say, so
It's all right.
in music in recent years, the hook is more prevalent and the bridge is slowly disappearing, which I think is a travesty, personally.
That is so sad.
Yeah, music, I think I've said it a million times at this point. I think that a good bridge can take a song from a great song to a legendary song. But again, it's the hook that keeps everybody coming, man.
It really
is
is.
how it
That's so
is.
sad. I love a good bridge. So sad.
All
A
right.
bridge over troubled water.
Exactly.
That's right.
What is that? Johnny Cash? Is that Johnny Cash?
I don't know. It's just an expression that I like to throw
Oh.
around a lot.
There's a
Imagine-
song, though.
Yeah, there's a song.
Imagine
called
it's
Bridge
not
Over
Johnny
Troubled Water.
Cash.
I
You should
think
probably look
that
it up.
is. I'm not.
You better
positive.
fact check.
It's a very old
It's
hymn.
somebody.
So I have today for you 3 questions. We are going to test your trivia knowledge of metal. So these
Okay.
are 3 questions that I personally feel are fairly easy. But we shall see. So the first one is, when was heavy metal music first developed? It is an ABC format. A, the late 50s, early 60s, B, the late 60s, early 70s, and C, the late 70s, early 80s.
Well, it would have to be the late 60s and early 70s, because that's when you had Led Zeppelin come around, which were kind of like one of the early influences. But mainly Black Sabbath came out in 1970 and Paranoid came out in 1970. And I think the first few Deep Purple records came out in 70, 71. I think like Smoke on the Water, I think that came out in 1972, I think. Judas Priest, their first few records were in the early 70s. So yeah, it would have to be B, right?
Yep, it is in
Yeah, I
fact
think so. My
B.
opinion.
Yep,
I would
it
like to
is B.
say, when you asked me these questions before the show, I didn't know there were A-B answers.
I'll tell you
You
what,
made me look like a fool.
I did. And you know what?
That's mean.
He's so smart. He already knew before the ABC answers.
Doesn't matter. That's mean.
All right. Number 2. And you know what? I'll play it fair. I won't give him the ABC on this one because I know he's gonna nail it.
Yeah, but this one's an easy question.
Oh,
Even I
boy.
know what it is.
Who is widely
forbid I don't know it.
considered who is widely considered to be the first metal band to exist in the world?
Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath, Taylor.
Taylor, who do you think it was?
I
She
don't
had
wanna
no
talk about
fucking
it.
clue.
I don't want to talk about it, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. I might have said Metallica, and I knew that wasn't right, but I had to say something. You can't leave it unanswered. You gotta try.
They
I
were the
attempted.
first thrash metal band.
So
See?
I
Okay.
tell her all the time, man. I don't know why I do this show with her. She's barely a
I'm a
fan of
great time.
music.
Okay. Listen.
She likes Jason Derulo.
That's such a lie.
All right, so we've got one more for you. Which of the following is not an album by Metallica? A, Meteora, B, Saint Anger, C, Master of Puppets. Again, a gimme.
Yeah, it's A. I don't know who came up with that album. That sounds kind of familiar, but yeah.
It is Linkin Park, actually.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, well, that's why.
All right, so those are the
Nah,
questions.
there's nothing wrong with Linkin Park. I just haven't really gotten into them that much.
They're great.
Those are the questions I have for you, but I want to follow this up with one more big, important, pressing question that is going to divide you and your fan base.
Oh,
So, and that's why I saved it for the end. You have mentioned that you like Megadeth. They were an early inspiration for you as a musician. On your bio, it literally says that you are a fan of Metallica. Now,
Oh, I see where this is going.
we all know as musicians and as metal lovers here that there is one very old feud that has never stopped. So,
Mhm.
where do you fall, sir, in the battle of Megadeth versus Metallica?
Both are great. For me, I prefer Metallica, and the reason why is that they have, in my opinion, they've done more in a lesser number of albums. they're just more interesting to me. I mean, I know a lot of people. I know the guitar work in Megadeth is really, really good, but just like Metallica, their songs are a little bit longer. They're a lot. They're like 6-7 minutes. Like especially Injustice for All, which is my favorite Metallica record. Um, there's just more going on, in my opinion. I'm in a strange way because a lot of people disagree with that, but I think Metallica they have more kind of varying song structure, more kind of like just something like just the kind of the bridge or the interlude, Master of Puppets, um, which is obviously really really legendary. They have more stuff like that going on. Megadeth is more kind of it's technical. There's really cool guitar work in there, but it's a little bit more to the point song structure wise. Not that they don't have other songs because they do, but Metallica is a little bit more kind of intricate to me. Not only that, but I just feel Metallica with a lesser number of records. I think Megadeth has like 16 records, and Metallica I think has 9 maybe or 10. They've just done more in a little space of time. I'm not really a lot of the recent Megadeth records I really can't get into. There's nothing bad about them, but they're just kind of generic to me. While Metallica, on the other hand, I'll be honest, I really haven't listened to 72 Seasons that much, but Hardwired to Self-Destruct, when it came out, I just remember thinking, everything on this album is just still like, you got Hardwired and you got Moth into Flame, which is classic 80s thrash metal, but then you kind of got, Am I Savage, which is kind of more like kind of heavier, kind of chunkier rock song, which I really, really like. Murder One is kind of a slower song. So yeah, I don't know. I love both, but Metallica by a little bit.
All right. I
Good
love that
answer.
answer. I love that
That's a
answer.
very good answer.
I think Metallica is a legendary band. I think Megadeth is also a legendary band, but also, man, just overall attitude, right? Like Dave Mustaine has just never moved on. And
Yeah.
I've seen so many things
Yeah,
with
he
him.
seems to
He's
have
just
a little bit of a problem with that, doesn't he?
yeah. He doesn't let it go.
I mean, it's only been 14 years, but oh well.
All right, man. So,
Nah, Dave Mustaine's cool though, man.
oh yeah, for sure. And he's turning into a lovely grandmother in his age. So, um, so tell us about what's coming up, man. What kind of shows you guys got going on?
Well, actually, right now we only have one scheduled right now, which is actually, that's the thing. Christ's sake, it's in Virginia Beach
I
at
saw that.
Scandals with Embrace the Oblivion, who we played with in Richmond. They're pretty cool. They're kind of more slight power metal, and a few other bands. Yeah, that's on the 16th of June, I believe. It'll be our first show in Virginia Beach. Other than that, we don't really have any. That's kind of it as far as shows are scheduled now. But I'm sure there's more to come.
Okay. All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on to the show, man. Thank
Yes,
you for
thank
being
you.
an incredible guest on the Hook and Bridge
Thank you
podcast
guys
today.
for having me.
All right. So, that is the end of the show. And yeah, man, we'll definitely when that show comes through on Virginia Beach, we'll try and come down and hang out with you guys and say hello.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to it.
All right, man. You have a great night.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Promo Polly. You got to do that real quick because I gotta.
Okay. All right, everybody. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you can get notified every time we post a new video.
And don't forget to go to our website, and check out our website. Leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. Follow the
Or 4.
Instagram. Or
4
4,
if you
or
want.
3, or 2, or
No,
1.
no less than 4.
Any rating is still a rating.
That's right.
Seeing the $5 foot longs.
$5.
I was doing it in my head.
All right. Anyways, that was the show, everybody, and peace.